I'm attorney Howard Ankin, and I'm honored to be here today with Justice McBride. She is running for Supreme Court Justice this upcoming March 17th, 2020, and it's important for all of us to know who's running in this election and why it's important for all of us to vote. So we're here today from Justice McBride. So Justice McBride, what's happening this March 17th, 2020?
There's an election for the vacancy of a Supreme Court Justice. So the citizens of Cook County are going to be electing the Supreme Court Justice.
And in Illinois, why is the primary election that's coming up now versus the full election coming up in November, why is this an important election for people to come out and vote?
Traditionally in Cook County, the primary is significant. If a candidate wins the primary election, the Democratic primary, there's a very good chance that they will be successful in the November general election.
Why is it important to you to be a Supreme Court Justice?
Well, at this point in my professional career, my judicial career, I feel I'm ready for that position. I also think that I'm the most qualified candidate that's running for this office, and that's really the primary reason that I'm running. I think the election of a Supreme Court Justice should be based on an individual's qualifications.
And you've been on the appellate bench as a justice for the last 20-something years, is that true?
Yes, I was elected to the appellate court in 1998, so I've served there for 20 years, over 20 years now.
And what does an appellate court justice do?
An appellate court justice sits with two other justices, and we review any kind of criminal or civil appeal involving any issue that might have come up at the trial court level.
Without any specifics, what are the type of cases that you hear?
Well, the type of cases are criminal convictions. We hear post-conviction matters. We hear civil lawsuits. We hear the appeal from any kind of a civil suit, whether it be personal injury, whether it be a chancery matter involving an injunction. It could be an administrative review action where a decision took place at the administrative review level. We hear declaratory judgment actions. We hear insurance coverage cases. So we hear a variety of any kind of issue that could come up in the Circuit Court of Cook County once the matter has been resolved.
Prior to going on the bench as a justice, were you also a judge in the Circuit Court?
Yes, I was a judge in the Circuit Court.
And how many years did you do that?
About 12 years.
And what kind of cases did you hear as a judge?
Well, I heard all sorts of different kinds of cases. I was a judge for 12 years, and I was assigned to 5 of the major divisions of the Circuit Court. I started out in First Municipal. I then went to the Criminal Division. I was also then later assigned to the Law Division. I then was assigned to the Chancery Division, and then I became the presiding judge of the Rolling Meadows Courthouse, which is in Rolling Meadows. There are about 20 judges assigned to that courthouse, and there's a large administrative staff. So I manage the day-to-day operations of the Rolling Meadows Courthouse, in addition to the other divisions that I served in.
So in terms of your background, you have a pretty diverse background, Justice, in that you know you understand and have practiced and listened to criminal law cases, civil cases, chancery cases, and you also have a strong administration background. Is that true?
Yes, yes.
How does that all help or assist you if you would become a Supreme Court Justice?
Well, I think it helps because I have actually been, so to speak, in the trenches. And when we review cases on appeal, I feel that I have a background and knowledge of proceedings that a lot of the other candidates don't have.
When you started as a judge, were you appointed or did you run in a full circuit election?
When I was first a judge, I was an associate judge. So I was appointed by the full circuit judges. So I became an associate judge when I began as a judge.
And then you ran and won a judgeship.
I did. I ran in 1990 for a full circuit judgeship, and I was successful.
Did you run out of a certain part of the county, or did you run countywide when you won that election?
I ran countywide.
So before you became a judge, you were a lawyer?
Yes, I was. I was a lawyer.
And how long were you a lawyer?
I was a lawyer practicing for about, I would say, 11 years and some months.
And what kind of law did you practice?
When I first got out of law school, I was an associate with a civil practice firm here in Chicago. Maybe there were five or six lawyers in the firm, but it was primarily a civil practice firm. I had worked as a law clerk at that firm. And then upon graduating and then getting my license, I stayed with the firm through April of 1977, and then I began as an assistant state's attorney with the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, where I stayed for about 10 and a half years.
And then after that, that's when you assigned to the bench.
Yes, exactly.
Where'd you go to law school?
I went to law school here in Chicago, DePaul.
And did you go to undergrad there also?
No, I went to a small women's college in Massachusetts called Newton College, which is now part of Boston College.
And were you originally from Chicago, or did you come here later in life?
I grew up in Mount Prospect, the northwest suburbs. My parents were both from the north side of Chicago, and in the late 40s they moved out to Mount Prospect. So that's where I was raised, grew up.
So when you ran the 3rd District, it was like you were home.
It was really like going home.
So Justice, in addition to your day-to-day functions as a justice, what else do you do?
In addition to my day-to-day functions, I would mention that I'm a mother. I have 2 grown children, a son who actually just passed the bar.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. He went to DePaul. I have a daughter who works in Chicago with a power company, and she's in the process of going back to school to get a master's. I like to golf in my spare time, but in addition to, and actually, when I started as a judge, I was expecting my son. But in addition to the day-to-day job, or what we do is in the appellate court, I have been involved actively in volunteering my time teaching trial advocacy over the years to lawyers, to judges, and also teaching about professionalism. I think it's probably the most important aspect of our profession, that we learn and we know how to be a professional in court. So that's something I've been actively involved in. I was teaching with the National Institute for Trial Advocacy for a number of years. And in addition, I'm on a number of Supreme Court committees right now. I'm on the Appellate Access to Justice Committee. I'm on the Supreme Court Rules Committee. I'm on the Judicial Performance Evaluation Committee. And I'm also actively involved with DePaul Law School, the Dean's Advisory Council.
As far as the vetting process goes for becoming a Supreme Court Justice, do you have to go to various interviews or meetings with the bar associations?
Yes. I mean, some candidates choose not to do that, but the vast majority of judges or candidates go before a number of bar associations. The Chicago Bar Association is one of them, and recently, more recently, within the last several years, we have what is called the Alliance of Bar Associations, and that consists of 11 or 12, I'm not sure the exact number as we speak and sit here, but there are a number of organizations within the Alliance. It's a very exhaustive and intense process. You have to fill out a questionnaire, an evaluation form. In that, you indicate all the cases that you've heard, opinions that you've issued. Are they fair? Do they issue their decisions promptly? Do they have a good knowledge of the law? What's their demeanor like? Are they calm? Are they collected? Do they have a good temperament? And so those are all the things that the bar associations look to in deciding whether or not a candidate is qualified or highly qualified, or in some cases not qualified for the position.
What was it like for you when you were starting out as a judge and having children at the same time?
Well, it's interesting. I was the first woman actually in Cook County that had an official maternity leave. So I became a judge. I was sworn in July, and my son was born in October. And so I served up until like the day before he was born. Then I had a couple of months off, and then I came back to work. But, and you know, I think every parent, father, mother, you know, any parent, when they go back to work right after their child is born, you know, it's a little tugging at the heart, you know, should you be at home or should you be at work? But my husband has been a big helper all along. Both our children played sports throughout their lives, and so oftentimes we'd be, you know, he'd be in one state, I'd be in another, but you know, there's a balance. You have to find it, but you know, it works if you have help. And you know, some people do it all by themselves. I mean, there are single parents out there that maintain a job and then they go home to their other job. But you know, it worked out, and you know, my 2 children are, I think, pretty healthy and happy, and that's really all you want at the end of the day. So, but yeah, I think that also, you know, gives me a different perspective too. You know, I consider myself a working parent. Now my children are grown and they're, you know, doing their own things, but you know, it gives you a little different perspective. I think when you become a parent, there's something there that changes. You know, you're responsible for someone. So I tried as much to be, at work and do the job that was demanded of me, and then still get home and make sure that I could go to a hockey game, or I, had dinner on the table, and, the things we all do. We'll see what happens. What I think says something about me is that lawyers that I see on the street, they're always encouraging me, but people that have lost cases, lawyers that have lost, say to me, I tried a case in front of you and I didn't win, but you gave me a fair trial. That's what you want. You want people to leave a courtroom and think, okay, you can't win them all to start with, but if you feel like that the judge conducted the jury trial or conducted a bench trial fairly, and that the person listened to you and heard what you had to say, one of the reasons it's important for people to become educated about judges is because judges can't speak to issues. We don't have a constituency. We can't go out and say, oh, we're for this, or we take this position on that, because then we're no longer neutral arbiters. We become advocates, and we can never do that. And so the only way that people can become informed or educated is to read about the judge's qualifications, to find out what their bar ratings are, to look at newspaper endorsements. When I ran for the appellate court, both newspapers endorsed me, and I had the highest bar ratings of any candidate in that race. So, but those are all things that are important. People, need to be educated. It's, we wish we could educate them more, but I urge everyone to become familiar with every candidate and see what have they actually done in terms of judicial experience and their legal experience. And then, are they truly qualified to be on the Supreme Court? And are they fair and impartial? And do they have a solid legal knowledge of the law?
And that's exactly why we wanted you here today. Justice McBride, it's been really great listening to you here today.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you for having me.